Recently, I was talking to a fellow YFC staff and a friend who oversees all the ministry in the Northern Territories of Australia. It's a relatively new position for him, and he's been praying and asking the Holy Spirit for strategy, trying to figure out what God would have him do to see young people come to Christ in that area of the world. And every time he prays, the Holy Spirit never gives him a strategy, but always ends up talking to him about him. These conversations with God have led him to one conclusion: that the Holy Spirit doesn't need a better strategy, but the Holy Spirit's after a man or a woman on fire, a person completely yielded to his presence. A person on fire. What if that's all the Holy Spirit's after? What if that's the great strategy of heaven? Not just good strategy, but a man or a woman yielded to his Spirit, unmovable to anything but his presence. Kind of sounds like Jesus, doesn't it? So this challenge has led me to read 1 Samuel again. And now remember, when Samuel came on the scene as a child, Israel was in a season of spiritual drought. The first couple verses of chapter 3 says that a word or a vision from the Lord were rare in those days. But something happens because of Samuel. Something happens because God revealed himself to Samuel. And at the end of chapter 3, it says this: Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fail. All Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, knew that Samuel was confirmed as a prophet of the Lord. And the Lord appeared again at Shiloh, because the Lord revealed himself to Samuel by the word of the Lord. Notice the wording here: the Lord appeared again. After a season of incredible drought, the Lord appeared again. There was like a spiritual climate change that renewed faith in God's people, gave them hope again to such an extent that they were able to start pushing back the enemy's attacks. And it happened because God revealed himself to Samuel, and Samuel yielded himself. Now this is where it gets deeper, because the first verse of chapter 4 says this: the word of Samuel came to all Israel. I find that fascinating. In this text, it doesn't say the word of the Lord came to all Israel. Again, it says the word of Samuel. Samuel was indistinguishable from the Lord's presence. Israel didn't need a strategy. They needed a man or a woman on fire, yielded to his presence. Historically, when the church has prayed for revival, God has sent a woman or a man on fire. We have Finney, Moody, Catherine and William Booth, Sister Etter. Heaven's strategy is to see sons and daughters yielded to the King, ready to do what he says and go where he goes. It's like you live in a way that becomes indistinguishable from his presence, saying what he says and praying alone what he would have you pray. It's living and demonstrating that heaven on earth is possible. So what if the next move of God, the next revival, was sparked not with good plans or strategy, but started with you yielding yourself to his Spirit, yielding yourself to the passionate and burning heart of Jesus?